they're in.
Since we've got a quorum, we're gonna call the meeting to order. And we will start with roll call. So Charlotte Ford,
Here.
Lisa Herm,
Here.
John Reagan,
Yes.
and Brooke Webb.
Here.
And then we have our liaisons, Rudy Stukel.
Here.
Andrew Flynn.
Here.
And engineer Michael Haberman.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum. Seth Davis. I don't like this angle. All right, review the minutes. I don't know, you get the minutes, Rudy, or,
They were in the Teams folder.
any comments on the minutes? I was not here, so I don't feel like I have skin in the game.
None here.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I will motion to approve the minutes.
Second. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Motion passes. So first we have citizen comments. You have 5 minutes to speak, and we will start with Ann Hershey. Please state your address for the group.
Start off, I want to say, I'm very happy that in this town, the city of Pittsburgh, they're gonna start with automated traffic lights, so it's like, maybe we'll be more aware of traffic and how fast people are going. So the kids are going back to school, pretty soon. Mothers are glad about that. We have petitions, we had the people that are living on the other side of Kelso sign petitions. I'm not sure who that goes to. Okay, so we're gonna.
These guys.
Anyway, and Kathy Prentice has written up a good letter about that. I guess it comes down to, because it seems like nothing's happening, I would wish for where there's rectangles are, where the kids cross over, that we could paint maybe on the roads slow on both sides of those rectangular, the crosswalk. The sign also showing the children crossing is not near that crosswalk, and that sign is very faded. So, and I guess for you all to come up with how much that would cost, I know everything is cost. Everyone's thinking about the cost, but, you know, there was that accident in the spring, and we don't want any more accidents there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ann.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then second on the citizens' comments, we have Maureen Walchick.
Hi,
Great.
how are you guys? So 562 Oxford Boulevard, just here to represent the same that Ann is. So on Kelso, like she said, school is starting, the kids are gonna start walking. There's gonna be hopefully more foot traffic that crossing, either at Kelso or Bower Hill. And so we did take up a petition for the neighbors, and we just don't feel that there's really great safe walking options for the kids. Bower Hill, once they cross, they don't have a sidewalk to walk down on Kelso, or down the grassy knoll, which is kind of like a no man's land. It is recognized as a crosswalk because there are those lines. And so with that petition, we brought up some options that they don't have to be those exact options, but just some ideas for the board, we feel would be acceptable. But if there's other ideas, I think we're all open to it, just if there's something for those kids. Because they should be able to have the benefits of a walking community. But it makes it a little bit more difficult, especially after the child that was hit in the springtime. A lot of people are nervous to let their kids walk, especially we have some small kids, elementary school kids. And that little boy was a middle school kid. So it's not that it's just for little kids. And I see adults crossing. So I just wanted to come to the board. I know we have to come, we want to get in front of you guys every time, just so you know we're still here. I don't know if there's been any progress made, if there's been any conversations about what to do with Kelso, or if there are any plans for Kelso at the moment. But we feel an urgency because we're gonna start having more and more activity. All right,
Yes. Thank you, Marie.
thanks.
Any comments online?
Can I make a comment even though I didn't sign up? I didn't follow the rules here. That's my bad.
Make sure you announce your name and address.
Yes, and then you can sign in.
Okay,
Go ahead,
that's
Marty.
the whole process.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
You can
No worries.
do that afterwards, just go to the podium.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Marty Basic, 201 Outlook Drive. I was here a couple of weeks ago with a proposal for allowing citizens to modify the streets, sort of a tactical urbanism proposal. And I just really briefly wanted to say, like, I haven't been keeping up with these meetings. It's summer, like, that's my bad. But I know y'all have a bunch on your plate. And so I just wanted to be here to offer up my time if there was a subcommittee or something to push this forward. I think ultimately the goal, I would love for this to go ahead of the commission ultimately. And so sort of like whatever that takes, like, again, happy to do the groundwork there, if that's required. But yeah, I just don't want the burden to be on y'all because I know you have a lot going on. So just wanted to, offer up my time if needed. And I think that's all for me. It's nice and quick. Yeah. Thank you.
Save the meeting. No, save the meeting.
Okay, yeah.
No citizen comments online, chairperson's report. I don't have a long report. I don't know if we want to add under old business, the citizen policy Marty introduced a couple months ago. Is that the fall under old business? I think let's add it as a,
It's 6B.
what is it, under subcommittee reports.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I don't imagine we have a report on that subcommittee, but okay. I was looking at the old business. But yeah, we can discuss it there then. Right. And in terms of chairperson's report, I know Activate Uptown, I believe they're gonna have a pop-up tomorrow morning, if I read that correctly from Eric Milliron at the rec center. So I know they're trying to do a lot of pop-ups there. If you haven't done the survey on Activate Uptown, I would recommend it. That's focused on sort of the Parsway area and the parking garage, northern parking garage area. That's a good one. Anything else on the docket? I know there is a couple movements ongoing and, let's just move through the agenda. I don't have anything specific tonight to stand on my soapbox, so, which is rare. We will move into the commission liaison report.
Good evening. Like you said, I don't have a lot. It's been a busy summer with lots going on. Obviously happy to see that Cedar Salem is complete. I don't want to steal Rudy's thunder as part of his report, but we've had lots of very positive feedback from the surrounding residents. Emailing me, emailing various others saying they're really excited with the changes. So we are happy about that. Obviously lots of construction going on right now. Lots of repaving, so that's got everybody slowed down for reasons that I don't think that we're really, that's our goal with those projects, but nonetheless, it does slow people down. I know that Ian McMeans, the planner, is working on getting the RFP finalized for the. Oh, is it out on the street?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, then your information is better than mine. The active transportation plan RFP is out. So that's good. Hopefully that begins to progress.
I think the deadline is August 6th. So I should have had that in my chairperson's report. So coming rapidly.
Yes, August 6th is today.
Yes.
So yeah, hopefully we'll start hearing information on that.
Do you know, is it an RFP or an RFQ? Is that,
Yeah.
RFP.
okay, so it's full proposal
Yeah.
from whoever submits.
Hi.
Yeah, other than that, right, at this point, it's at least from a commission perspective, again, we're starting to get into budget. So that is starting to ramp up. I am curious where the board is on the sidewalk stuff. But other than that, seems things are in flight and nothing major's happening. At least nothing I can think of that would be a pertinent, insight here.
Yeah, I think, I don't know what the process looks like after the RFP comes back, but I believe the deadline was the 6th, which was a pretty quick turnaround, and then if it gets kicked off, I believe it was gonna wrap up next June, so we can, I don't know if we wanna share that RFP with this group, Rudy, or do you have any thoughts, or do we? I don't think we need to at this point until we've got a consultant elected. Yeah. So it's a joint, just a reminder for folks, it's a joint one between the Borough of Dormont, which I think has a lot of merit because there's movement beyond our borders, so yeah, we'll just go to the staff liaison report. Rudy?
Okay, as Commissioner Flynn mentioned, we completed the intersection at Cedar Salem and Holly Crest, turned out well. Everything looks pretty good, it's functioning. I think it was a definite improvement. I mean, if nothing else, it's a shorter distance for traveling for pedestrians across the street, so. We stood there and watched for a little while. Nobody wanted to use the buttons. We had the wrong people use the buttons, even though they're there and there's signage and everything, but, once everyone used it, they liked it, so we'll see how that works. It was good for us too, because that's the first one that we installed in-house. And, we saw that we could do it, number one. Number two, it's not that difficult, so it worked out pretty well. Our contractor completed the long line painting, yesterday. 26,000 linear feet of double yellow and 18,000 linear feet of single white along the edge lines and some parking areas. And our guys continue to work on the crosswalks, stop bars, and school zones. We're focused mainly on school zones right now. So had a good year for painting, and it's been dry, it's been warm, and moving along pretty quick. So that's all I have for right now. Oh, and as Commissioner Flynn said too, there's quite a bit of construction repaving going on. Cedar Boulevard's finished the lower part of Cedar. They put the binder layer down on Upper Cedar in Florida today. Tomorrow they'll be topping that. Pavement marking will be going in before the end of the week. And they're on Shady East as well. They milled that. They laid the binder down today. They'll be putting top down tomorrow if the weather holds up. And so those projects should be wrapping up.
Rudy, is there any changes to the like school preparation this year, or is it pretty much standard to what we've done in the past?
For what?
For the line painting and any signage or anything that we do?
Yeah, no, it's all the same. So we're just refreshing everything that we have out there. There have been no changes. No changes in the patterns for the school zones or anything like that. It's all the same.
And the projects like the Salem projects, like, I know we said it's great to get the data back, or the kudos back from the community, and that's good, all anecdotal stuff. Do we have a process for like post project gathering some data to see like, what really changed,
I mean, that was a safety improvement, so I'm not sure, what.
And it's preventative,
It's not
so-
speed or counts,
Yeah.
it was more to improve pedestrian safety getting across the street, so I'm not sure what we would count or quantify based on just that alone. It's just,
Yeah.
it's a perceived improvement in safety for the
The only thing I can
pedestrians.
think of is that by pushing the stop bar out for Hollycrest.
Mhm.
When we did look at the crash data, when we were evaluating it, there was the vast majority of crashes over the past 10 years were people either going straight across from Hollycrest to Salem or making a left and getting hit by someone on Cedar. So because of the curvature of the road and because you were so far back, I want to say 16 out of the 20 crashes involved that kind of, so empirically over time, we could see, hey.
So
there's
that might
been
be something we should
tangible
have to look
decrease
at
in-
and look back after
Yeah.
like 3 years and see if there was I just wasn't sure, like in projects like this, are we forced to find some kind of measurable KPI to see, was.
Do that with speed humps
do that.
and those types of
Yeah.
things.
Yeah,
but-
we
Like
do.
those ones are somewhat easy. I'm just
Yeah.
wondering something like this, if we have something that we can not only measure, but we can say like, this, we know this was a worthy investment, it improved safety by whatever.
Yeah, it's not gonna change the counts. I mean, obviously, the same amount of cars are pretty much gonna travel that same route. It's not the project wasn't done to incentivize them going some other direction.
Right.
But do we have speed data on that prior? Because I can tell you myself, being on that corner and standing there, I think it slowed the cars down because we pinched that
Yeah.
intersection in. And you could tell the cars are going, now maybe they're admiring
Well,
our
that's what I'm
work,
saying,
you
it
know,
might-
and they want to take a little look and they're rubbernecking, but maybe
It's
it's.
really great when you have that data to kind of show like,
Yeah.
you know, what the result of something, a change that you made. It, you know.
What you got out of it.
Right.
What's your bang for your buck, right?
Yeah,
I think it's subjective but realistic in that the whole idea of the project was raising awareness for pedestrians and motorists that this is an active intersection.
Mhm.
There was really nothing there before. There was a pedestrian crossing sign. It was a real long crossing. You had hatching down the middle of the road because you have the boulevard of Cedar or of Salem, and none of it really made sense. So now it
Right.
makes sense, and if you're driving through there and you don't know you're going up to or through an intersection,
yeah,
then we
I think it's
definitely
great. I
failed,
mean,
but-
I think that's all great. I would just like to see us maybe think about like how when we do a project like this, like how do we finalize it by measuring something at the end if we can?
The other thing, I'll just last thought from my perspective is we added, we have a fully, correct me if I'm wrong, ADA compliant intersection now. We had no sidewalk across that little island over on the Salem side before.
Yeah,
So now it all ties together. There's a nice wide, with the detectable plates on every corner. It's fully compliant and it's a breeze to cut across there now. But you feel safer when you're.
yeah,
when you're
I mean,
used to it.
and that's great. Those are all things that we have to do whenever we do a project like this and take those into consideration. I'm just looking as we do these projects, that post data gathering that's going to help us as we continue to do things. Not only does it reinforce the money that we've spent as a community, but it also gives us some kind of inkling on what we need strategically to do going further. So say, hey, we did this and we know we had a 5% reduction in speed or, we just need to think about that, I think, as we move forward.
I don't wanna say we shouldn't do it, because we should, but I think the active transportation plan is an opportunity to talk about data collection. Our complete streets policy calls out data we're supposed to collect. The neighborhood traffic management plan calls out data we're supposed to collect. So just kind of bringing those underneath, and that probably leads into the subcommittee discussion later, but bringing those things underneath an umbrella. So we were like, what data will we always collect? Because that intersection is probably a yield condition. How many people were yielding to pedestrians before and how many people are yielding now? Like, that's your changeover, because it was probably a low percentage before.
I had to wave people through it, like the vehicles. I was standing there just observing and I tried to
That's
stand
exactly
back,
what I want.
but I had to actually push the cars through because I wasn't crossing the street.
It's a good condition.
How about the buttons? How many times somebody pushes it or?
What do you mean? Oh, does it track that? I don't know if it tracks that or not.
Just curious, and then compared to the other corner at Morgan,
Mhm.
you know, like, are more people crossing there, or the tennis people, like, I'm just not gonna take the chain, are they?
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's probably a lot of different ways, and I will say the city of Pittsburgh's done a great job at tracking some of their before and after
Oh, really?
on their, that might be something that I can share, but they're doing a great job documenting it, but they also have a bigger capacity. It's like, who's
Right.
gonna go out?
It's a
Are we
function
gonna,
of
are we gonna go out through
the
cameras
dollars
on
you're gonna
intersections
spend
for a
to
period and
collect the
collect,
data.
yeah, like.
Yeah,
But I think the active transportation plan will be a real good point to highlight that. I just don't know how much budget we have and if it's gonna be able to encapsulate kind of all those thoughts, but I think.
Let me just put a bow on this and say, great idea. I 100% agree. I think, Seth, to your point, wrapping this into the active transportation plan discussions is gonna be important. Coming out of that, I think there does need to be a thoughtful exercise by this board to say, how do we understand performance measurement? Right, and think about that, because first step is just what is the target state that we want to achieve?
Yep.
Then we figure out how do you fund it,
Yes.
right, at least in concept, right? And then you start putting proposals forward to the commission, right? So again, we're at data gathering and learning.
Yeah, so, for people in the room that say things aren't happening, I think part of it is waiting for this plan that doesn't exist. But things are happening too, at the same time, it's just progress is slow for a variety of reasons. There's no easy way around that, so, anything else, Rudy, to close up? Okay,
so
go,
one more
go.
question, Rudy, and I can't remember if I brought it up before, so apologize for repeating, but the work being done on sidewalks that had a green dot. So how,
That's our root damage replacement program.
okay,
So we're working on Carnegie and Duquesne right now.
okay,
So any sidewalk slabs, we're working in an organized fashion, working through the community. I think we're in section area 8 or 8 or 9, is it 8? Okay. So we have it all mapped out. We divided the municipality into 10 equal sections based on the amount of sidewalk in each section. Have it all mapped out on GIS and so forth. And we walk through and we do an inspection. There's a slab that's damaged by roots from a municipal tree. Then we take the slab out, cut the roots and put the slab back in, new slab. So yeah, we're in the process of doing that. We're probably about 20%, 30% through that. I think our funding this year is 85,000, 90,000, something like that for that program, so. So we'll probably make it through that area, Carnegie, Duquesne, Long Ridge, Salem. And then over, we'll be moving kind of north and east-ish with the map. A lot of that information's on our website, so if you go in there, you can see the mapping and the different zones and so forth. But we're progressing with that, yeah. That works the vast majority of that work's done contractually. We do some in-house. When it's not in an area and there's a really severe issue, we'll send our guys out and we'll rip some slabs out, cut the roots down the best we can and replace the sidewalk slabs. So there's some stuff we do in-house, but the vast majority of it, I'd say 95% of it is done contractually.
And just assuming that would probably continue through next year.
As long as the commission funds it, yep, every year, yep.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, on to subcommittee reports. So first up is the capital budget. I don't know if that subcommittee met. I don't think we actually have, based on our, I think John's subcommittee, what do we have? That Elizabeth Hearn and Beth McCabe in that proposed subcommittee?
I think it was me.
Okay,
So
Lisa Hearn, sorry.
Yep, that's good. Yep, we have not met.
Okay.
I was on vacation, so I don't know if this was discussed last week, but we definitely need to have our first meeting.
Yep. And then on to
So
the,
you have how many members?
Three on the capital subcommittee.
who's the other member? Lisa Hearn?
John.
Oh,
me,
John.
Elizabeth, right, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm just using John's.
I don't know what Elizabeth.
John's spreadsheet that he shared back in June
Okay,
to kind of track those. I don't think we have another one besides that.
Spreadsheet?
Well, your Word file where you're kind of calling out these subcommittees, potential subcommittees.
Yeah, the intent wasn't to track it, but.
Yeah, that's okay. And then, so 6B is the Mount Lebanon Citizen Improvement Program. I want to be honest, I haven't reviewed it in full. I know John reviewed it, but I don't know if anyone else that's here in person or that's not here in person has had the opportunity to review it. But when we talk, and I want to hear other people's opinions, but when we talk the development of subcommittees, I do want to potentially move that to one of the subcommittees, so.
This agenda item is that we did create a subcommittee, right?
Okay.
It's not a staffed subcommittee yet, so we need to.
Okay, for just that policy?
Yes, for just that policy.
So can I make a suggestion to create a
Not
policy
make one.
subcommittee? Because there's like the neighborhood traffic program, there's
That is on my list,
Okay.
my suggestion was a policy subcommittee.
Yeah.
This, we did create one just for that though.
Okay.
Which, so pretty narrower in scope.
gotcha, more like an ad hoc.
Yes.
What's the subcommittee for that one? So John, I guess does somebody have a report on that subcommittee?
There are no members yet. We need to.
so we have,
So there is no
so
report.
we basically formed the subcommittee, but I agree, it sounds more like an ad hoc committee where it's just targeted at that one specific topic.
I think it makes, I mean, I don't know what the logistics are, but I think it makes sense to roll that into a policy subcommittee with that.
As an ad hoc committee attached to the policy committee.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, whatever the logistics are, but I mean, I think, and I don't want to jump to 7B, but I think it makes sense to talk about it. It's, policy and capital budget, I think, are two that will always be kind of circulating. It's like, you've got the neighborhood traffic calming policy. You'll probably review that or potentially review that under this program. We'll update it, but I think it's a good place to have both those active as permanent. And then I think, active transportation plan, I need to look back at the RFP and that probably would help. I don't know how they plan to staff sort of the steering committee for that, but I would see somebody liaising from this group with the active transportation plan and having that, there's probably gonna be policy that comes out of that, so I'd love to have a policy committee stood up to respond to the active transportation plan, almost in the same way the comprehensive plan did, and kind of working through some of those channels.
I just make a quick proposal or suggestion. You can, under 7B, old business, you can dissolve that and create a policy committee.
Yep.
And subcommittees can have outside guests
Yep.
participate. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we need to make a motion to put that underneath there?
No, it's your old business.
Well, then let's start with 7A, and then we'll work through that in 7B. That work, the sidewalk prioritization. I imagine this probably lives in the same place, but I'm happy to discuss it. I feel like sidewalk prioritization should live with the capital
Yeah.
budget subcommittee.
And we're probably, I mean, this was probably a little more of an urgent topic.
Yep.
Considering, so I think we do need to have a fairly quick get together to at least review now, we gathered a lot of information regarding this. So I think that's where we need to start.
Yep.
Kind of going through that and having that conversation at the meeting so we can provide something back to Rudy and to the group so that we can give them at least some recommendations based on our findings.
And I think what would be important for that, and Rudy spoke to that a little bit, what do we have budgeted for sidewalks right now annually? Like a ballpark number.
Yeah, well, no, there's two programs. So there's the program that I talked about before, the root damage sidewalk program. And there's the assessment program where we go out and we look at individual properties. Now we hire a contractor, we do the bid work, we replace the sidewalk slabs, then we build the property owner. So that's usually typically at least 90% funded. If someone doesn't reimburse the municipality, then we lien the property, we give them some opportunity to make the payments. And then if they don't, then the property is liened.
Most of the assessment programs carried by the homeowner or the property owner.
Yes, correct. So with that program traditionally, annually, we've been doing about $100,000, $120,000 worth of work. But that's not the total cost because you have a revenue source that comes from billing the individual property owner. So there's that cost. That program, we run that behind, we try to trail the root damage program, if you will. So, we go to a property and if there's root damage sidewalks, and we're not fixing those, which the tree roots from the municipal tree caused it. And we're forcing the property owner to pay for damage right beside it, and we're still not fixing that. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
So we try to get through an area with the root damage program first, and then we follow it up with the assessment program behind that. That's how we have it structured. So we skipped a year this year so that we could get out in front again with the root damage program. We'll be bringing the assessment program back if it's funded by the commission, budget time next year. So we've been right around $100,000 for root program, give or take, and right around 100 to 110,000 for assessment work.
Rudy, remind me with Woodhaven. Where does that fit in? Because I think this sidewalk prioritization is more the
New sidewalk, that's how my
sidewalks.
understanding was.
Yeah.
Right, so like
Woodland,
thank
yeah,
you, I'm sorry.
that's okay.
So I mean, because I think.
That's a whole
there's-
separate funding mechanism.
Right.
That's like a capital.
And that's what we're
item.
trying to prioritize here is
Right.
those projects.
Right, okay.
There was that list
So-
that we received that was kind of like on the future docket of trying to prioritize those ones that were
That's where
actually,
sidewalk does not exist now.
sidewalk does
Right.
not
This
exist.
is to install brand new sidewalk in those areas, right? So that's a whole separate thing. I would consider that in its own little
Right.
box. And decisions are made based on, and those are areas where residents have approached the commission and expressed interest or concern about needing pedestrian, access to those areas that do not have sidewalks.
Mhm.
And they made the decision that Woodland was at the top of the list. So that's one that was funded to do.
But only 2 segments on Woodland, right? Based on the spreadsheet we
The
have.
final, I think that was the initial
Mhm.
conversation, and I think yeah.
The whole thing, for
The whole length, yeah.
The whole
From
for
Vermont down
460,
to Terrace,
460K.
correct. Behind the terrace, right,
And that's only
on one side,
2,600 linear feet.
on one side.
So for people to have these costs, 2,600 linear feet, which is less than, just over a half mile less than, yeah. That's $460,000, so.
Not cheap.
No, I think that's why, obviously, we need to dig into it and, you know, my carte blanche, or if I had carte blanche, I'd say, yeah, fund all 2.3 million because we have,
Well,
we have a walking school
We had
district.
Scrubgrass on there, we had Kelso on there. we
No,
had,
it's a real thing.
You know, quite a few in the Sunset Hills area, so there was multiple different places that existed.
Yeah.
But what we need to do is basically look at that, evaluations and then provide some guidance.
Yeah, and honestly, I would say, just to be practical, make a list of which
Yeah.
ones you think, prioritize the list.
Right.
Right, because numbers are gonna fluctuate.
Right, well, and we
Right.
don't know what the numbers are, we're just
Yeah. Yeah.
prioritizing based on our observation
Yeah,
of what
and
we
need,
think is a need.
Yeah.
Obviously, economics are going to have to be a secondary
Correct.
consideration to this.
Yes.
So,
And it might get moved around.
Yeah.
Right,
so, and that was in the share folder, that's what Taryn Melivate created, that to put all of our, information in, so.
No, I think, you know, if that can meet with the capital budget subcommittee and kind of come out with the list, or at least rank it. I don't think we want to take anything off it. Obviously, they all exist. Let's put a ranking to it. And then I think I don't want to keep kicking things the active transportation plan, but that's going to prioritize streets, like not just sidewalks, but these streets. And as it's written, these streets are how we should move people, or this street should look potentially like this, which may mean when we reconstruct a street, that street will then potentially get sidewalks included with it. Like if Kelso, I don't want to promise anything, but if Kelso gets rebuilt and is on a list, you look at Kelso holistically. Should Kelso be 35 miles per hour? My opinion, no. Should Kelso have, be a state road? Maybe not. But it's not designed to move people outside of vehicles. It is a street for vehicles. Should it be that way? If it should be that way, it shouldn't be on the safe walking list. These are all my opinions, but I hope the active transportation plan can formulate, prioritize, and say, these streets should all look like this as we reconstruct those, and then we're probably gonna have a big pot of, and this is gonna include Dormont, a big pot of what those costs will be. Hopefully, then we can seek out larger pots of funding, because as the three gentlemen at the end will speak to, we don't have a rainy day fund that's gonna pay for $2.5 million worth of sidewalks, but the state has some $14 billion in surplus, so there's a new Main Streets program from Governor Shapiro. There's avenues that we have. We need to have the plan first to seek out those and point to our plans. So that's why we are, I think, kicking so much to the active transportation plan.
But Andrew, in terms of like the budget getting planned for in the works. So if we make this priority list, by a certain time. And like, what's the likelihood of getting, as my question, into this budget?
honestly, the project that we funded this year was driven largely because the commission was asking for it specifically. I think that's a fair.
Yeah.
So it was kind of above and beyond. We had some excess funds available that we could use, so we funded it. Will that happen again? I don't know.
Yeah.
So I would say again, from a budgeting perspective, priority is always maintenance, maintain existing.
Yeah.
And then if we have extra, where do we want to put it?
But I think you also said for that project, it had the right mix of everything. It had the community support, it had the petition. I mean, it had
Yeah.
everything to kind of force that into the right direction.
Correct.
But I'm saying not that it will be in the budget, but what's our likely of timing to get a proposal to have something to go into the budget?
I'll tell you that the capital budget is already set for this year.
Okay.
It's been printed, it's there, but you're realistically looking for next year. And also realistically, it's a 5-year budget, so it's a 5-year plan, I should say.
Right.
So you're looking at future years for funding mechanisms and recommendations to the commission on what the board feels are the priorities and how much of the apple we should bite off every year.
So for this next budget year, when is the deadline that you want this prioritization from?
I would say May, probably. We start working on capital in May.
When do you take it to the board for a vote?
It will get voted on in October.
Yeah, I think it's October, but there's a review period.
There's
Right, so you-
It has to be
Ideally
public.
May, so that you can get it in. and
Yeah,
then-
2025 budget is already set, it's just a matter of where the money's gonna go.
2025 is getting baked right now.
Okay.
That's what
I
I'm.
think that
asking.
We missed the cycle.
Staff has already put it together. The
Okay.
commission has not approved or
Yes, it's too late.
whether the commission has even seen it yet or
No,
not.
we
I
haven't.
think so, right?
So when you say
Staff is-
Woodlands it's in 2025's budget.
On 2024.
No, it's
2024. They approved extra funding to do that project this year.
To do it this year.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's nothing next year yet.
Nothing yet.
So it sounds like you still need the list for next year, or no, we missed
Well,
the.
you can ask for some
Get
funding.
the list done.
Yeah, that's what I mean, like, I think we should prioritize meeting in the next month.
Like a motion? We need,
Capital budget has to meet,
No money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no motion.
yeah,
okay,
Yeah.
meet
all right.
before, I don't know if we can dictate meet before the next meeting, but I think we need
I
this
think we need
yeah,
to meet.
ASAP, yeah.
Okay.
So let's, I mean, let's talk offline calendars and
Yep.
get that moving.
Yep.
And,
Okay.
So the last thing I'll add on that too, Ian did have in his presentation, if you look in the folder, the kind of the chronology and the timelines of when decisions have to be made for these type of things. So it's all in there.
Yeah. okay, let's do that. No motion, but let's meet before the next meeting and we can talk offline about that. And so then 7B, we kind of already talked about this a little bit, the subcommittees. I know John's list, I don't know if everyone had a chance to review them, had multiple. I'm coming of the thought that I see capital and policy. I don't know if I want, there was a couple other ones that I think have merit. There's an outreach committee. I don't know if I see mobility board role as outreach per se. Like, I think there is a role for outreach, but I think I guess I view mobility board as the logistics, like we're proving things. We can add external folks on, but outreach feels like a bit of a municipal thing or advocacy groups. And then I think there was another one, student mobility committee. I'd love to support that, but maybe we have the school liaison at a policy, or maybe there's a school district, somebody we can pull into a policy committee. So I want to hear other thoughts, I guess, on the committees before we dictate anything. But it seemed like at a minimum, policy and capital budget committees, subcommittees for us to start with and go from there. I know there's 9 people, so I want people to be, I see people wanting to be involved. That's why they're on this board, but we can bite off more than we can chew with like 5 subcommittees and maybe not get a lot done. So any other thoughts on the subcommittees?
Having written that list, I will say that I did note that I put the idea of like a student committee, student mobility committee for basically for schools, as based on the idea that I perceived there to be a lot of concern about our walking students specifically. But I would, after having been on this board for several months, I am thinking that we probably don't have the bandwidth for a dedicated redundant subcommittee. So yeah, kind of lean away from something special just for that.
Okay, so we kind of talked about this. Do we put a motion to dissolve the Mount Lebanon Citizen Street Improvement Program Subcommittee and stand up the policy subcommittee adjacent to the capital budget committee? Can I make that motion? That's the motion. Anyone second that?
So
Or-
could we just go into a little more detail about
Yep.
what do you envision would be in the policy?
I see the policy as the citizen improvement program policy.
Okay.
Neighborhood traffic management policy, because I think, Mr. Haberman presented that policy to us. It was adopted in
Right.
2012, most recently amended in
Okay.
2017 or 2012. Okay, 2012, that hasn't been touched since 2012.
Okay,
Gotcha. So those are a minimum, and then I see the active transportation plan producing policies. and
okay,
Potentially evaluate, so that I see those going into the subcommittee as well.
okay,
And then anything else ancillary to that could potentially go there. But I think starting with 2, obviously capital budget related items roll right into capital
Mhm.
budget, and then policy related. Also subsequent to that is our existing complete streets policy, which while this board didn't create it, exists.
mhm.
I think there could be an evaluation of that policy for implementation.
Okay, I'll second the motion for a policy committee.
Yep.
Um,
Any other, do we have discussion before we vote, or?
You discuss after a motion. May I comment?
Yep.
The only other subcommittee that I would like to see, maybe not now, but at some point, is a street design subcommittee. I think honestly, those two, the capital and the policy make perfect sense. They're good broad buckets. Right, there's a lot of meat, to dig into. The one I would like to see, right, as we start to mature some of this stuff is how do we, to John's point, engage citizens. Part of that is, hey, here's the street program for the next 4 years. How do we talk to people about this? Right, how do we help people understand what's possible on the street? How they might want to think about their street. I mean, all those types, that exercise, I think, is a controlled one. But I think, it would be a neat place to, but again, it doesn't have to be now. We're nowhere near that.
I entirely agree. I think I think it could be cart before the horse a little bit, just because of the active transportation plan. I don't want to steal all this thunder, but yeah, I could see it going, design. What's in the hopper is kind of designed, I imagine, and that's in the capital budget for roads, right? Like, we're not gonna change the design at this point. Maybe that's one we can chew on a little bit. I know it's been discussed here, but I think starting broad enough with the policy and capital, and meeting capital, especially within the next month, policy coming, I think we can stand that up. Is there anybody that wants to be associated with the policy committee? I think John listed himself. John's got a lot of interest, which is not a bad thing, but anyone else specifically interested in policy or digging into what currently exists? I would suggest.
I mean, certainly that's where tactical urbanism has some opportunities. Honestly, I think that crosses over to the street design.
Yeah.
We stand up that committee at some point. I think that's where tactical urbanism really has a good match.
Yeah.
Because it gives the community a little more options other than just, full redesign of the street.
Yeah, definitely. And something that policy potentially taps into is we don't currently do interim street changes, as far as I'm aware. Like, Arden was fully baked as a design. And so I think Arden has came out really good. But if there was this tactical urbanism policy or anything that exists in this place allows an interim condition where we could try something. If it doesn't work, we can revise. Like, I think there's a lot to dig into there. So I think starting with the policy and capital, we're in a pretty good place. So all in favor, or I'll call a vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, so 2 subcommittees, capital budget and policy, and we'll go from there. New business, Rudy, I think he's at least.
We did roll the other committee into this one. It sounded like I think I heard.
Yeah, we dissolved and like now it's part of policy. Yep.
Sorry, Charlotte, though, just the way you.
I know, but
worded it,
the
sure.
way I rambled, my
Yeah.
apologies.
Yeah, but sorry, going back to subcommittee, so are we talking through any more that John was proposing, or? Yeah,
I don't
because I
think
thought we had a community outreach in there somewhere.
we
or
did,
some-
and so, yeah, I, and Charlotte, you were associated with that.
Yeah.
I guess, we can talk through it. I don't know. Andrew kind of touched on this. How do people view outreach from this mobility board, I guess?
Right now, it's, well, the short of it is, and this is just my general belief, is that I don't communicate as an individual, as a commissioner. I defer to the municipality, right? This board, right? If I'm one of 5 votes on the commission and I don't speak for the municipality, this board doesn't speak for the municipality. So facilitating direct outreach, right, it shifts into advocacy.
Yeah.
We can
Right.
support, and encourage communication through the PIO. That's why we have a PIO. But trying to do direct outreach as a board starts to create a lot of gray area and it just gets really messy.
That's kind of, and I probably talked around that a little bit. That's where I kind of felt it's like, this seems really difficult for us to pick up that mantle because outreach is extremely hard.
That isn't necessarily what I envisioned
Okay.
when I wrote the suggestion that, like, I used some vague verbs, but like, it's my impression that the municipality already does do some outreach, like, so it would be more like.
Look up Levo or something like that.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah. But I think leveraging.
At the same time, if there's not a lot of interest in
mechanisms.
getting involved with that, then we don't need to do it.
All right, and then we have move on, right, or move what are we calling our group? The other group?
Move Lebo.
Move Lebo,
Yep.
yes?
I would like to think that group can carry the mantle for
Okay,
outreach
alright,
and
okay.
engagement
And advocacy.
and advocacy, kind of
Yes.
checking a lot of those boxes.
Okay,
And they can be more nimble out, I think, operating outside of the board. In my opinion.
okay. All right,
I did have the, I called it the infrastructure subcommittee. I did have that in there, which is basically
Streets.
something
The
along
street design.
lines.
Yeah, I think that one makes a lot of sense too. I think they all made sense.
So if that's something we might wanna do in the future, but not tonight,
Right.
then I would suggest look at what I wrote and add to it. Let's chew on that for a bit. How about that?
I think it's a good idea.
okay, sounds good.
Any other thoughts on the subcommittees?
No.
Thank you all. New business, proposed hearing officer schedule 8A.
Yeah, so what we tried to do here was just establish a list of, instead of each meeting or every other meeting, you know, we need one person from the board to hear appeals with Mark Quealy. Should there be an appeal, we haven't had that many, so Mark was good enough to put this schedule together on the workbook, the spreadsheet. And then we're hopeful that you guys would adopt that and we could use that moving forward through the next year. And he tried to look at who has you know, there were folks that have 1 year commitment to the board, some with 2, some with 3. So he tried to get the 1 year, he just used that as kind of a template.
Where did that?
It's in the Teams folder, the files.
Oh, the hearing officer proposed.
Yes,
Yep.
correct. So that's what we're proposing, and this would just establish the schedule for the remainder of this board's term.
So it looks like John is proposed for August and September,
Correct.
and then Brooke Webb for October, November, myself, Charlotte, Aaron, Elizabeth, and Paul.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's nice because it's not stuck, I don't want to say stuck with one person, but that gives a potential mix for a variety of folks to hear these potential appeals, so.
And then Taryn did, I think April, May, I do June and July, there was nothing in June, I had 3 at the end of July, it's very easy to do, so.
Okay.
It's mostly online, yeah, Mark,
Yeah.
that's everything up, Mark handles pretty much everything.
Very simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that he put the list together.
Yeah, I do too,
Yeah.
yeah, it makes it, that way we don't have to remember to do it every month, but for some.
Any other thoughts on it? Is there a motion to adopt the officer schedule, hearing officer schedule?
Second.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, go ahead.
So
you're asking.
I'll motion to adopt the schedule.
John in second, all in favor? Aye, opposed? All right, motion passes. 8B, clear the way campaign. Do I have something on?
Do you want me to?
Whoever,
I asked for this to go on, so I'll just give the quick update. So, an interesting proposal came forward. It was, with Commissioner Siegler and a resident in his ward. They had a conversation, with the Move Lebo folks. What essentially, the concern was that there's a lot of sidewalks that not only are not there, but there's also sidewalks that have a lot of brush and trees and other barriers that make it difficult for people to, walk through them. So people end up walking around. So the question was could we get a campaign, of people to go out and volunteer to just go like do door hangers, to say, hey, the school year's coming, can you make sure your sidewalk is clear so that, our kids are safe? Right, neat idea. And a lot of things happened really quick through that. The short of it is that, Move Lebo wasn't comfortable, because there's the potential for the municipality coming in behind and saying, okay, you didn't do it, now you're in trouble. And the Move Lebo folks want to be a positive force. They don't want to, be trying to figure out how to, tell people, look, you're gonna get in trouble. They want to, help people and support people, which I think is great. But that kind of put things on pause, but it didn't prompt me to kind of step back and think, more broadly, how do we create frameworks, for people to engage? Right now, when you think about sidewalks, right, not just installing sidewalks and maintaining sidewalks, but also, clearing brush from sidewalks, and we have snow angels. Again, that's a program that is stood up, right? We ask for volunteers, and people can request support to have snow cleared from their sidewalks. Move Lebo is interested in doing these types of programs being positive. But that creates a need for the municipality to create a framework to say, okay, well, here's kind of the baseline of what, how this would work. So something for the board to consider, maybe as part of the policy subcommittee. But it was an interesting, idea that residents brought forward. And that I don't know, we have to think through all the mechanics of these types of programs, but as you think about back to school, right? I mean, there's a lot of momentum that goes into it, whether it's the police department doing things, whether it's public works, painting and doing all these other things. And residents are also, and I think PTAs would probably look forward to engaging if there was a framework. Not that we're gonna do that this year, but.
So who owns the Snow Angels program? Like who?
We facilitate, the municipality
So-
facilitates it.
Have we looked at like extended it beyond just the winter? So we've never really looked
No.
at it like
This all just.
winter, fall, or winter, spring?
Yeah, this all just came out. This whole conversation happened in like the scope of 4 hours. And
Yeah.
died. But I thought it was worthy of bringing to you guys as a way to potentially help residents engage and just have visibility on some of these topics. That the municipality can't go and clear brush and then ticket people. We could, but that would be a huge lift, right? And it would take a lot of work. But if there are opportunities for us as a municipality to support, this broader, effort to just create visibility on, hey, it's back to school, there's opportunity to create walkability and you can do your part and there are people who want to help. We have a PIO, right? We have some baseline things that we can provide to those types of initiatives. Without overextending the municipality while also supporting, again, the community's broader efforts and create some momentum.
And the Snow Angels, we give volunteer hours, right, to high
Yes.
school students?
Mhm.
So that would be a good way to encourage maybe getting not only your volunteer hours, but getting out there
Right.
and helping out.
Yeah,
Okay. So
Exactly.
Yeah, I really liked the idea. I'm looking, just because I've experienced it, I would love if there was a 311 type of system where I don't, me, Seth, email Rudy all the time. Complaining about something. Yeah, I'm sure everyone that gets my comes
Rudy
in.
hotline.
It's our Sukal at Mount Lebanon.
Because there's a couple things happening and, Mount Lebanon doesn't allow front yard fences is one example. So people put up shrubs. Those shrubs, Arden has one right now that is overgrown and overhanging the sidewalk. They also water their lawn on the sidewalk and I don't like walking through water, but that's me. Unnecessarily and the climate change and, thoughts on me, but so you don't allow front fences, but you allow front vegetation that's now overgrown and not enforced. So there is an element that I would love to be enforced, but I don't want that punitive action. So what's the balance? What's the balance here?
Door hanger.
Well-
Right, or, cause I mean, being new here too, and like snow from California, I need to know these things,
Right.
right? But so like,
Right.
my thought is, well, what happens if you don't by 7 o'clock in the morning? And same thing with like the vegetation and this potential initiative is, we're not wanting, it's like a friendly reminder,
Yeah.
right? But like, then what?
Yeah.
Like the community is seeing that like this person as the,
Right.
whatever, but and so then what? Like, then it's almost like
Yeah.
setting a tone for an expectation that, is there a timeline? I'm all for like the friendly reminders and everything, especially when it comes to kids and keeping them safe and, preparing for the school year. And I also know that, the police department stands a little bit about, maintaining a community that is positive and has positive relations and all of that. So like, how do we balance
Right.
all of that? To be a positive
Yeah,
experience.
I like the idea of jumping off the Snow Angel program because generally that is targeted at the community people who can't necessarily know that they don't want to do it. They can't do it, like it might be our elderly, a lot of reasons. That I think is a lot friendlier as at least to start an awareness process. And then, hopefully once you start there, other people maybe on the street get the idea, hey, they're cleaning their piece up, maybe I think then the stick comes later, like you've offered them support, a mechanism to get this hopefully, help and done. And then only after that do we, have to go into a harder
Can we call them
stance.
street angels?
Yeah.
Right of way angels doesn't have the same.
That's a big thing to consider is even just like maintaining a big tree requires, certain equipment. I mean, when we're looking at, in the schools, we have committees in our PTAs that like do grounds cleanup, right? They'll walk around and, we all get together at the front of the school and, and do like a little, like around the area. And it's all like for the greater good, right? Like we all just come together to do that. And I think that if it's mimicking what the Snow Angels is, right, there again has to be a framework and a process to do that, almost like, hey, we like the help. And then you have the people that show up and do the work.
So how did that come to be as far as like, I'm sorry, Andrew, like, who like kind of shepherded that to kind of figure out what the framework was and how it all would come to be?
So this was actually a longstanding program, my recollection.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it was a longstanding program that had been out there, that was run by the high school. And they didn't have capacity. I think it died about pandemic, around then. And we picked it back up because again, people had been asking. So we have one staff person who, essentially facilitates
Okay.
the process. And it's really just a matching exercise. There's not a lot that goes into it. Obviously the PIO communicates out, but we are really just there to facilitate, the process from an administrative perspective, right? The police are, enforcement is a completely separate discussion.
Yeah.
And I would imagine it would be similar, here as well, right? Again, but again, what is the program, right? And what is our broader intent, to do something like that? I think would deserve some conversation, maybe in a subcommittee.
You're talking about Snow Angels right now, right? Like it sounds to me like it originally started in the high school or like as a community.
Well, it's one of those things where the students get hours,
Right.
right?
So my question is like, what piece does the school district have in like disseminating information, right? If we're gonna tell students that they can receive volunteer hours, like is that communicated through the counselor's office? And then, in our newsletters, there's like a community relations piece, like at the bottom that like, we advertise for like crossing guards and different things like through the YMCA. And is there a place for those things?
I assume there is. I know Greg Warden is our person who, I know he was working with the school district, so I don't have a line of sight, but I assume that there is communication with the students.
I know the PTA does a pretty good job of letting, them know with the Snow Angels to remind them to, if you need the hours, this is a good place to get them. So I think it's a pretty ingrained program, which was kind of nice because it's established. So if we would find, or a way to grow that beyond just the Snow Angels, you're really leveraging something the community already knows about.
It kind of seems like you really just wanna, you'd be getting rid of the cute name or making it somewhat confusing, but it seems like the people who need the program, it would just be trimming plants or shoveling snow. It seems like the people who would need those two things, your Venn diagram is basically a circle. So I have them ask for help twice when they can ask for help once, and then you just need to maybe match some more help. I don't know exactly.
Some people do, like, some people may have, landscapers that come and so on, but they don't maybe have somebody to shovel their snow, so they may not.
And they might not know they're out of compliance is the other part.
Right.
I bet kind of there's probably a ton of code enforcement things out there
And we can talk
that we've
about
never,
this
yeah,
someday,
that they've
sure.
never like known that, oh, those shrubs are over the sidewalk, like if you're not impacted by it. But I know this is terrible, and I know who doesn't shovel their sidewalk. Because
Yeah.
I walk my kids to school and I walk the bus, it's like, they'll never be enforced, so what is next? And I know it's like kind of a both and.
Right.
Yeah, like, we wanna support them, and you were exactly right, like, let's offer them support and then track it. Okay, if they didn't take the support or they didn't do this, we've gotta kind of come up with another strategy.
A framework and a process
Yeah.
seems like a good starting point in terms of like establishing.
Clear the way is a broad tent, like clear the way for snow, clear the way in general. Okay. Do we, just want that to move under policy to take that up? What's happening with it now, Andrew? Is there anything? No, okay, nothing for us to do now.
It is green space.
Okay.
That you can work on.
Okay. hopefully, I don't think we have anything else on the agenda, but hopefully by next month, we'll know more about the active transportation plan potentially. I think if today was the closing day, I think they were gonna award, or that probably comes before commission to award.
It would,
right?
yeah.
So we might know more about that before the next meeting or at the next meeting. Anything else oh, go ahead.
I'll just make a plug for the Scrubgrass Road neighborhood meeting tomorrow night, 6 o'clock in the Commission Chambers. Yeah, it's not for a broadcast. It'll just be for the people in the room and who show up. I'll have a report and a whole bunch of alternative exhibits to share. And the goal of that meeting or the policy is to come out of there with a consensus on a plan that would make its way to you guys. For your review, and then ultimately from this board to the commission for their final decision.
Is there one ongoing on Morrison and Salem or? Good.
Not one on Salem.
Your presentation in May, there was.
So Salem did not
Metric.
meet the metrics.
Okay.
That's not to say that it's not looked at in the complete streets and the active transportation plan in the future. It's just not gonna be under the NTMP. And Morrison, is kind of dropped down because they only got 1 point and Scrubgrass got 8. So.
And Mike, is the Scrubgrass portion also the portion that we would have reviewed in our streets program, or like, was it on that street list? I know, because Scrubgrass was.
On
That we
the sidewalks?
Yeah.
It's got
Sometimes
sidewalks.
Scrubgrass has a sidewalk on one side.
One side all the way. There's just one little gap.
I don't think so.
Maybe I'm.
Yeah, not that I remember. I'm planning to go, Mike. I'll be
Yeah, I'll be there as well.
there.
Cause that's a future. Not just
So
because.
just
not because we go to-
depending on how that meeting goes, like, we walk out of there with the neighborhood reaching a consensus that it could make its way here in September, but more than likely it'll be October.
Okay.
Just because I'll have to take tomorrow's meeting to finalize the report.
Yeah.
You know,
Is that one that would potentially go in the capital budget or just depends
I
on
think
time?
that's a discussion
Okay.
that has to be had here.
Yeah, it might not make it
So
in this cycle.
I'm going to present it as in a way that it can be phased.
Yep.
That something can be done that would have the benefit we're looking for, that's relatively low cost, and that can be done relatively quickly, and some of the other stuff is more hardscape type stuff and more costly.
So that might be phased in over 2-3
Yeah,
years.
so maybe it's a short-term, long-term recommendation.
Which is ideal. Can this board get line of sight, like a standing line of sight on all those types of streets, that are, for argument's sake, that we've received a petition on, that are outstanding for some consideration, whether it's.
Right now, it's just Scrubgrass and Morrison.
Do we have a tracking of previous requests, I guess? Because I'm wondering if that's something that can funnel the consultants on the active transportation plan.
Whenever you do pick your consultant, have them get in touch with me. I don't need to be involved because I've got a whole lot of that data from the last 12 years. Even in those neighborhoods where we collected screening data, it didn't meet, like, they can have all of that. It might be helpful in how they evaluate certain types of streets. Yeah.
Get this off my laptop.
But now that there is, the petition and Marty is Kelso on that now, or
Well, so
not just because?
We'll have to look at it. So it's just a petition. If the petition is from Kelso, it's a state road that we can't do anything with that. If it's from a street,
Off
Off
of
of it.
Kelso.
that's different.
Okay,
We'll have to look at
okay,
and see what's on the petition and what neighborhood or street it actually is. And then it would ultimately be, this board would have to recommend the police collect the screening data with their equipment, which is what happened on Salem.
So under the NTMP, just for clarification, we can't do anything with Kelso today. But we have a complete streets policy. Hypothetically, if PennDOT repaved Kelso, we could say,
Correct.
do this.
Mhm.
I don't speak for PennDOT. There's also a case where if we have an active transportation plan and Kelso, which could be likely, shows up on the HIN, the High Entry Network, it will then be in a plan where we can seek out funding to push PennDOT along.
Right.
That doesn't feel good for the people here asking about Kelso, but it's unfortunately the logistics we have to work underneath.
got it, okay. Just wanted to understand that, thanks.
But we can't build sidewalks on Kelso,
Yes.
so there's that part.
Can or can't?
We can't.
Can.
Yeah, so that's a component. That's good to know, I think, for that committee discussion.
I think I've said this before, but like in addition to the citizen interest in Kelso, I kind of think that's a reason why, I think Kelso is a good candidate for sidewalks, because I don't think there's anything more interesting we can do. So just like that.
At least
Not
not
today.
right
Yeah,
today.
Yeah, not today.
We can't material change the street anytime soon, so we have to look within the parameters of what we can.
Yeah.
Sidewalks, side streets,
Yeah.
those kind of things.
And not to muddy the waters, but there are things that the municipality can do on a state road. Signage, pavement markings, that doesn't require changing the speed limit or, you know, changing the configuration of the road, but there are things that can be done that the municipality can do on a state road.
What
With their approval, look, pavement marking, so for example, what we just did on Cedar and Salem with the cross pavement legend and the, you know, the slow with the cross pavement legend and the yield pavement markings and the piano key crosswalks, all of that kind of stuff you can do on a state road.
We can't do the piano.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You can do the legends on the road, you can do signage, you can do all that stuff.
Does that require a special, do you need to not petition, but do you need to have PennDOT approval? for
Yeah,
any
but it's just
It'll meet
signing
the
a pavement
rest.
marking plan that they would get and say, yeah, go ahead, you own it. I mean, you pay for it to go in and maintain it, because we do anyways. We
So-
maintain pavement markings and signs on state roads.
So what's the right mechanism then to move that forward?
I think. Oh, that part.
Yeah, just the pavement, payment or painting.
I think the question would be,
Pavement painting portion.
if the process
of the
was,
plan.
yeah, if the process was approving the sidewalks on Kelso hypothetically, would you bundle that project with a potential pavement mark? If you're gonna put sidewalks in, you should have new crosswalks. So I think in my mind, you would bundle that project to go to PennDOT and be like, here's our sidewalks and our updated markings and paint. So I think it probably starts with that subcommittee if Kelso is prioritized and funded.
Yeah.
Maybe a long walk home.
Well, so let's see what this has. I think, Rudy, if you.
Yeah, I'll post this
Had a
in the
chance to-
Teams folder, yeah, and I'll share it with the manager. That way everyone will have access to this, book share it with us.
Okay.
That's.
That's the
This is
petition.
the petition,
Okay.
yeah, the document, basic document, right?
I think that can fall under new business next month.
Yeah, and then, yeah, let's have the capital budget team or group talk offline about dates before the next meeting. And then with that announcement, our next meeting date and time is Tuesday, September 11th.
All right,
You've got something, go ahead.
No. Just a question about, we talked about, I know we talked about the snow angel stuff, but I was curious, has anybody ever, I don't even know if they're Boy Scouts now, Scouts? Eagle Scouts, has
Did I say
anybody
11?
ever
I meant
Five.
talked about
Third.
like what they might have, you know, possible projects or local scouts?
Rudy gets pestered all the time.
I'm sorry, I was.
It's got projects.
I kind of reverted back to the
Eagle
snow.
Scout projects?
Yeah,
Yep.
that was my question of how, you know, how does the community know, or maybe if Eagle Scouts are
We haven't
research?
really had any per se this year. A lot of them are typically park related. They want to
Okay.
do little projects in the park.
Yeah,
And I've had one of my assistants, Phil Avolio, kind of working with those in the past. But we really haven't had anybody want to approach us this year, so I'm not sure. It kind of runs in cycles. We'll
yeah,
get a bunch sometimes, and then, you know, for a couple of years, we won't hear from anyone,
And
so.
we have lots and lots and lots of flag donation boxes.
But I think streets could be a new place because like Marty's policy, not Marty himself, but that policy allows
Yeah.
potential. I would love somebody, you know, there's definitely places where you're seeing these artistic
There might be, like,
implementations,
benches
like.
and planters and
Yeah.
things that communities can do.
and I know it's generally one project and done, you know, that's how Eagle Scouts work, but
Yep.
just, you know, if we don't have this framework, or probably, you know, when we do have it in place, then it can be more easily, you know, communicated to the community at large. Maybe a church or whatever, some organization looking to say, hey,
But we become a place that they can actually formally come to see if there's something there.
Yeah, and there's a review process too,
Yeah.
so, you know, they provide us with the plan and they have to develop that and develop a budget and all those type of things and a work schedule, and then they present that to us, so I would see the board reviewing that, you know, as part of the responsibility of the board, part of that process.
As an Eagle Scout, I think those projects that you can do in your, like directly in your community, I could see somebody be like, you know what, I want to fix this, or I want to fix it for my street.
Yeah,
Or, and this is all hypothetical, but I think doing, because I did something at my elementary school, it's like,
there
that
you
meant,
go.
that meant a lot to be able to
I
actually
think
do
it
something there.
does, yeah, so, sorry, I didn't mean to
No.
go back and just.
So yeah,
Because nobody's gonna wanna leave.
Well, let's adjourn and we can do it offline at least.
Solve the world's problem.
So I misspoke, Tuesday, September 3rd at 6 PM. I think I said September 11th because
Yeah.
it just rolled out. Anyone have a motion to adjourn?
Quick question.
Oh, go ahead.
So the policy subcommittee is not currently staffed, is it, or did I get, I don't know. I
No,
wasn't there.
In your form.
It's you, John.
No, in your form, I mean, the chair is an ex officio, I think, on every
Yes.
subcommittee,
We
so.
didn't staff it, but this is gonna be another, we left, okay. Last.
I think we can take it
meeting.
offline, because you had a couple of people in the policy one,
Yeah,
so.
I mean, yeah, we only have
Let's
five people,
start.
let's solicit interest.
Just
making sure.
Yeah, I mean,
under policy, John and Marty, basic, we included as a, yeah.
Thanks for reminding me the second half of my question. So what is,
enough to do.
is there a good way to
We
get,
can always put it on the business agenda.
non-board members on subcommittees? Like, wait, are we just want them to like come in and say, hi, I'm interested, and then appoint them?
I think it's the best way.
Or is,
That's usually how it works.
that's usually how.
I think we can let Marty encourage other folks, hey, I went to the Move Lebo meeting, or not Move Lebo, I went to this mobility board meeting, it was so much fun, and now I'm on a policy subcommittee.
Yeah,
You can do it too.
yeah.
Okay.
So Marty, yeah.
It's really, and this is ultimately a word of mouth type of exercise. And I would say, again, think about, right, if people who are particular concerns about these types of issues. Policy is one of those areas where, you know, a lot of people want to go fix something. Policy tends to, you need a certain type mindset of where we're looking at structural process, right? Which requires a certain, you know, type of person who wants to kind of think about it at that level. But again, there are always people in the community who, if they're aware, they will want to engage on those types of things. But finding them is always a challenge.
We can use PIO.
I will participate.
I think the PIO is gonna write some article about mobility advocacy. There might be an angle to speak from the mobility board and mention that we're standing up these committees. So I've not responded to the email request, so I will respond.
And if I'm not on a committee, which I don't think I am.
I think you can be on any, well, I guess I would wanna know what are the quorum rules?
You cannot have a quorum from the mobility board.
So we had, you know, no more than 5. We have 9 members.
No
More
more
than
than
4.
Four,
Yeah.
right?
I got
How
it.
many are on from us? on
The capital
policy?
budget has Lisa, Beth, and John currently. Well, I guess the question is, John, you probably don't need to be on the capital budget. I'd like, this is from your list in your Word file.
I think you originally.
Who put me on there?
What?
I have a printout.
Okay,
Doesn't
I'm on the one that's on the Teams folder.
And I think technically you're sort
I
of,
can be on any, or I
Yes.
can attend, but I wouldn't
Okay.
wanna,
I would like to see you on the Capitol.
I'm happy to attend both. So. Would you have a preference on one, Charlotte? Capital or policy?
Whichever we need more of, I guess.
I think I feel like capital
Yeah,
is just
sure.
because it's kind of a nearer term.
Okay, cool. That
So,
works. I just want to make
Yes.
sure.
John, you're off the hook.
but I think we will, yeah, we want to share with the group that, hey, we have these 2 subcommittees, anyone that wants to participate in these, but no more than 4.
Okay.
And we'll start there.
Thanks.
All right. Do we have a motion to adjourn? I'll make that motion. Do we have a second to adjourn? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.
Everybody's gonna look at their
Hurricane
satellites
right now.
Next hour precipitation looks like drops off in the next 30 minutes.